What's going on, golf fans? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. I'm Jack Bushman, as always, joined by Ross Baran. We got a great show on tap here today as we'll recap the 2025 Sony Open as Nick Taylor stole my money right out of my wallet. Epic finish out at Waialae Country Club. We'll also talk about TGL through 2 weeks as we're now 2 matches in. Neither have been very close. We'll share our thoughts on what we like, what we'd like to see changed, and then we'll also wrap things up by getting into a preview of this week's American Express as the PGA Tour finally hits the continental United States and heads to La Quinta, California for this year's American Express. We'll share some picks as well. Quick reminder to please go and follow Golf on Tap wherever you listen to your podcast for free. That way, if you're not able to join us live, can still catch up on all of the latest episodes, and go and show some love to OnTap Sportsnet on YouTube as well. Subscribe to OnTap Sportsnet over there, and that way you can also jump in the comment section, interact with us throughout the episodes, let us know your thoughts on Nick Taylor's win, if you were part of those painful beats alongside me, and also who you like this week at the American Express, and your thoughts on TGL through 2 weeks. Ross, we got a lot to get to on today's episode, buddy, but how you doing on this fine Wednesday afternoon?
I'm ready for more golf.
Ready for more golf, baby.
Yeah, just where it needs to be right now.
Back in the swing of things, and we got a great tournament last week. I know the Century, just with the timing coming off of, New Year's, and the tournament starts 2 days after New Year's, and it's kind of just a weird timing coming after the holidays. Also, with it being in Hawaii, and, there's NFL football going on. I wouldn't have blamed anyone for electing to still watch NFL playoff football over the Sony this week, but it really felt like golf season was back with the finish that we got on Sunday at Waialae Country Club, Ross, as there was probably a dozen guys that realistically could have won this tournament. I had many guys in the mix, Ross. One of the best cards, truthfully, that I've ever put together. I had Spaun, 125-1. I had Eric Cole, 80-1, both of them in the final group, along with Stephan Jaeger. I also had scumbag Nico Echeverria at 100-1 as well. And Nick Taylor, dude, especially after missing those 2 shorties on 15 and 16. When he missed those, I was sitting down watching playoff football like everybody else with my buddy. I also had the golf screen going on. My buddy's not a huge golf fan. Shout out to Eli, as I know he regularly tunes into these shows. He was watching alongside with me. He knew the sweat that I had going on. I never envisioned that once Nick Taylor missed those 2 putts that he was still alive. I thought that was it. And when I saw Nick Taylor lurking the entire day, listen, I know what type of guy Nick Taylor is. He's got that dog in him. He's an alpha. He was the one guy on that leaderboard that was scaring me all day long. But after, especially that second missed putt that he missed on 16, where he ends up making a 4, Nico scrambles to make an incredible 4. The fact that they made the same score there, I'm like, that is going to be massively deflating for Nick Taylor. Goes and chips it over the green on 18, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I just, considering the position I was in with the guys in the leaderboard, Spaun at that time was still at 16. Nico was at 14, Nico was at 15, and just made a nice chip shot out of the bunker. He was going to make a birdie. I'm like, I'm chilling. Nick Taylor's in a real tough spot here. And the motherfucker chips it in. And I saw Rick Rungood, who does a lot of good data stuff. He showed a graphic of all the birdies, eagles, pars, every score made on 18 throughout the course of the week. There wasn't a single other eagle that came off of the back of the green. I saw some of the percentages posted out there by the PGA Tour. 0.4% chance for Nick Taylor to win that golf tournament when he stepped up to the 18th tee, and in only Nick Taylor fashion, chips in for eagle. Spaun and Jaeger, they go and puke all over themselves, which we'll get to more in just a second. And then Nick Taylor and Nico in the playoff. Nick Taylor's never the one in position A. I'm like, okay, Nico's just got to go and do his thing. Doesn't take care of business. Nick Taylor just steps up, lets his nuts hang whenever he gets the opportunity, and winds up literally robbing me, man. Maybe the most painful beat I've ever had. But at the end of the day, Ross, I can't be too mad because I still put together a really solid card. I've had runner-ups in back-to-back weeks, and truthfully, it was one of the most amazing finishes to a tournament that I've ever seen. Before we kind of dive into players as a whole, give me your thoughts of the final couple hours of the Sony Open at Waialae Country Club.
So I did the same thing. I was running around trying to catch as much as I could. The back nine, the leaderboard is just wide open. Like there was no way.
Who wants to win a golf tournament?
Exactly. It was, but I mean, that's what made it exciting to start the beginning of this new season. Is right away we go into week 2, and there is just the wide open leaderboard. Who's it going to be? Who's going to come take advantage of the early season points right now and come get this event? And Nick Taylor was probably the last one on that list that I thought was going to come get this until the actual playoff. Once it went into the playoff and I saw, all right, it's Nico, it's Nick, I just thought of all these previous experiences that we've had with Nick in playoff, and it's nuts on the table every single time when he gets in there, where I think I went and live bet like Nick Taylor outright plus I think the Bills and something else, like all at once. And I was like, all right, like this is going to cash. And I think I hit like a 20-1 because Nick Taylor was in there just for a little spending cash for the next week, just off of that. Yeah. But I mean, the shot he hit probably should have never be possible. He hit the 0.1%. It went down. And then while we watched the 0.1% drop, there was a shot out there that everyone knew was coming that didn't happen. And I would just like to briefly just say Stephan Jaeger.
Yeah, tiny. Hold on, real quick before we get to Stephan Jaeger. Speaking of the 0.4%, though, I do want to throw this out here real quick because I don't think anyone has talked about this at all whatsoever. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way at the time, man, because of the result and how much it banged me. You know, Nick Taylor got a free drop there on 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know he got to put it on the first cut of rough and didn't have to drop it in the primary because he got to move it a club lengths away, even though he blasted his 3-wood way past the green. If there weren't the grandstands there, it most certainly would have been in thick stuff. But instead, he gets the free drop, club length, puts it on the first cut. It's not truly in the thick stuff, and he goes and chips it in. Something nobody's talked about. Nick Taylor, that's something we've talked about in golf these last few years. Guys getting free drops, guys getting the added help when we want to see the exact opposite. We want to see them get fucked in those situations because they hit a bad shot. That was one where I was probably the only one upset. Everyone else, I'm sure, who wasn't betting on JJ Spaun or Nico Echeverria, wasn't upset with that free drop as I was. But just something I noticed and something that we've mentioned time and time again here on Golf on Tap, the outrageous drops that some PGA Tour players get. This one wasn't as outrageous, but certainly did play an impact in Nick Taylor making that eagle and getting into the playoff at 16 under.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where the frustration comes from for it. But then again, it's not like we got Jordan purposely putting it on the roof or Xander taking 8 club lengths out of the woods where now I'm back in the fairway. Actually, this is fine.
And where we can transition this now to, Ross, sorry to interrupt the Stephan Jaeger thing again, but we got to throw out the Chuck Hoffman stuff because it was some of the funniest shot tracker graphics I've ever seen. Charlie Hoffman, for anyone who didn't see, has found the hack at 18 as there is no penalty for missing left and hitting it towards 10 when you're teeing off the dog leg. That is the 18th hole at Waialae Country Club. For anyone out there that doesn't know what I'm talking about, please go and look up Charlie Hoffman Data Golf on X so you can see the images and the lines that Charlie Hoffman took on 18. And these are the type of situations where it's like, it's just kind of getting out of control. When you can take those types of lines, hit it a mile left and know you're going to get a free drop. And listen, I'm not knocking Charlie Hoffman here in particular. I'm knocking the PGA Tour and its rules because Charlie Hoffman, as he put it himself, there's no one as smart as him. He's not getting punished for doing that. And I believe he shot 3 under in 4 days on 18 using that strategy all 4 days. Went lefter than you can believe of left on 18. You really got to see the image in the graphic. Tom Hoagie also shared an image of the line that Charlie Hoffman was taking on 18 on X as well. But those are the type of situations where we got to get away from that stuff as the PGA Tour, man. That's the gimmicky golf stuff that we like. I can live with the Nick Taylor free drop in those types of situations because of the grandstands. I'm just kind of throwing shade because I got money ripped out of my hands and I'm pissed about it for the second consecutive week. But those are the real ones where it's like, okay, what the fuck are we doing here? I love a good laugh as much as the next guy, but that's absolutely ridiculous. I sent you the images, Ross. Like, what did you think of that?
The first thing when I saw it reminded me of like, I can't remember what tournament it was, but Rory took a line like that. And Paul Azinger, as soon as Rory teed off that shot, Paul Azinger's on the coverage is like, yeah, that won't be a thing next year.
And there's the Victor Hovland line at, what tournament is that? I think it might be Genesis, where Victor has played it over that scoreboard the last couple of years. Like,
yeah.
I'll give the players credit for thinking outside the box and playing within the rules that they're given. The PGA Tour has got to do a better job of holding the shit down, though, because that's gimmicky as fuck.
I just remember it was like specifically Rory with his 340-yard drive, basically aiming over like two other holes to cut the corner. And as soon as he hit it, Azinger, just without missing a beat, is like, that won't be a thing next year.
And Ross, that's what makes the Stephan Jaeger thing even funnier. All right, let's paint the picture here. Stephan Jaeger, front nine, is playing pretty solid. He's making a ton of putts. I'm a big Stephan Jaeger fan. I had him when he won the Houston Open and outdueled Scotty Scheffler. So I'm a big Stephan Jaeger guy. It was hard for me to root against him on Sunday, especially when he was making all those putts early. I'm like, fuck, this guy isn't going away all day long. Then the back nine comes. He and JJ Spaun both get the lefts, like massive lefts. And Jaeger is going with the biggest bomb and gouge hole strategy or golf course strategy that I've ever seen of all time. Stephan Jaeger is literally hitting driver as hard as he can, which is absolutely hilarious. We actually saw Benny On kind of bomb and gouge his way into the playoff at the Sony Open the year prior. I think players are starting to recognize a little bit more that you can kind of bomb and gouge this place because it is so short. If you can dodge the trees, you'll get away with it. Stephan Jaeger and JJ Spaun kept getting away with it, kept getting away with their big misses the entire back nine. Jaeger is playing these huge, like 30-yard duck hooks left, loses one on 16, goes maybe into the pool or something. He's got the huge hooks left. You can't get rid of them. Somehow, though, he's making all these incredible putts to keep himself alive. As soon as he hit that one out of bounds left, Ross, I got to be honest, I was counting my chickens. Because at that point, Nick Taylor had missed those two shorties. Jaeger's out of bounds. He's got to hit his fourth from the fairway, up and down to save bogey even. Spawn's got a 10-footer for birdie. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting real pretty here. Jaeger makes the fucking 15-footer to keep himself alive. I'm like, God damn it, this fucking guy. Anyways, we get to the 18th. Now, JJ Spaun comes off the dreadful bogey that he makes on 17. Literally wanted to stab myself. They both got to make birdie now all of a sudden to get into the playoff. Jaeger's had the lefts all day. And as we just talked about, Charlie Hoffman proved that you can literally hit it a mile left and there is no penalty. And the broadcast is even talking about it. Smiley Kaufman, the broadcast, is like, oh boy, here comes a Stephan Jaeger hole where he finally can't miss this one left. What does he do? He pulls out the 3-wood. Pulls out the 3-wood after bombing and gouging his way, which I know he did on Saturday, where he shot the tournament low 8 under 62 to get himself into the tournament. He goes against his strategy on the one hole where it literally would have made the most sense. It's the club that would have gotten over the bunker. Instead, pulls out the 3-wood, doesn't carry it over the bunker, lands in it, just like Patrick Fishburne did the day prior, hits the lip of the bunker, leaves himself in a terrible spot, isn't able to make his chip in, winds up missing the playoff by 1 stroke. And dude, it's just like, Stephan, what are you doing here? First off, I don't know how his caddy allowed him to make that decision, man. You're playing for a playoff and like an extra $1 million right now, and you're going to leave your best weapon in the bag? I absolutely lost my... Smiley couldn't believe it either, Ross. Some of the worst course management that I've ever seen. Truly, it brought me back to Tommy Fleetwood, 18th at the RBC Canadian Open, when he laid up on a 499-yard par 5, the 72nd hole of the golf tournament. He winds up making 5, goes into a playoff, loses to Nick Taylor. It gave me that type of vibes, like true loser moves, and it sickens me to say because I love Stephan Jaeger, but as you said, it was that type of move, Ross.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's all it was, where I literally sat there and like, you could tell he was trying to fix something every single time. And then all of a sudden it was like, and now we're going to make the change. Right now, we're going to make the change.
Dude, and he was chipping beautifully too. Like, okay, whack the driver 40 yards fucking left. You're still going to have the length to go and get it up by the green. You were chipping marvelously literally all day long. Like, the ups and downs that Stephan Jaeger was making to get himself out of jail was damn near impressive. I just don't know what he was doing there, man. No idea.
Yeah, Smiley said it best on the tee box when he pulled it out. Smiley just sits there and goes, "Oh dear."
Yeah, it was a very strokes gained negative stones type of move out of Stephan Jaeger. One that I'm sure he's probably going to look back on and be kicking himself about for a while. And I'm sure JJ Spaun's going to feel the same exact way, Ross. He was cruising through those opening 8 holes, man. What really felt like set him back was that missed 2-foot 11-inch putt on the 9th that I could not believe he missed. It would have put him up 2 going into the back 9. Doesn't end up making a birdie in the final 10 holes, which, to be fair, Waialae was playing pretty tough, and we'll talk more about that in just a second as well. But to not make a birdie in the final 10 holes of Waialae, including the 2 par 5s, 9 is one of the easiest par 5s on the PGA Tour. I don't care how tough Waialae is playing. You're not going to win a golf tournament at that type of golf course if you don't make a single birdie in the final 10 holes, 99 times out of 100. And just felt like Spaun lost the momentum, and as Stephan Jaeger was losing it, like, it wasn't good for him. Like, seeing that visually was, I feel like, doing JJ Spaun even worse, because all of a sudden he was starting to get the lefts. 17 misses left into the bunker. All he literally has to do is find the putting surface. He was putting fine all day in terms of 2 putting. It just made the crazy long par putt from like 40 feet to stay tied for the lead. Misses the bunker, duffs the bunker shot. Misses left with his tee shot on 18. Puts himself in a terrible spot with his approach. Tough one for JJ Spaun, a guy who's played really well over the last probably 8 tournaments he's played. A lot of top 10s in there. Real good opportunity for him to get his second PGA Tour win. And I'll tell you what, Ross, it was my first time ever betting JJ Spaun, and it's going to be tough to go back after that one, buddy.
It's like the Max Grazeman train. I'm out. I'm out.
You're already burying the lead for the MX. You're not biting on the Max Grazy train at 35-1 this week?
Absolutely not. That can fuck right off. I hope he wins. Good for him. I won't be touching it.
Incredible Sunday, though, at Waialae Country Club. Eric Cole with a kind of what I'm learning is a vintage Eric Cole type of Sunday, man. I really want to be there for that Eric Cole first win. I'm not one of those people that's been there on the Eric Cole 40s. I think I've only been there maybe once or twice, but the 80s, the 90s, those are the price tags that'll keep buying me back in. But god damn, if he doesn't win that one when everyone was puking down their chest, it's like, is he really ever going to win one, man? I know it was a bad break to hit the cart path and go out of bounds, but just feels like Eric Cole doesn't have that dog in him, man. I'll probably still make mistakes and we'll still bet on him, but that was a painful one.
I have more faith in Eric Cole than I do Cam Young, so it's okay. We'll get there.
I do. I still think Eric Cole will win before Cam Young. That I 100% agree upon. Do you want to give a shout out to your boy Keegs? You gave me a text on Friday afternoon. As Keegan, I think he went 4 under on that back 9 on Friday to really put himself in the mix of the tournament. Never really had it going throughout the course of the weekend, but still wound up sticking around for a T6 finish. And Keegan continues to rack together these high-end finishes really since he got that victory at the BMW Championship. It's been really solid stuff out of Keegan, and you can just tell that he's all business to play well. It's a big year, he knows, for many different reasons. And Ross, we talked last week about the official world golf ranking and just kind of the weird spot that the PGA Tour and its professional golf is in right now, and its kind of roster, if you will. Keegan Bradley continues to play like this, man. I believe there's a real chance that he could be a playing captain at the 2025 Ryder Cup if he keeps this type of stuff up.
The way he's playing right now, I think when it comes to selection time, you're going to have similar to Tiger President's Cup 2019, where there's going to be 11 guys picked, and the 11 guys are going to turn and go, you're number 12, right? Like, that's that's a no-brainer. Like
Yeah.
we like not only do you lead us, but we win with you playing. So like cut the bullshit. Like shut up. You're number 12.
So here's what Keegan's got going. I know you texted me this as well, so definitely wanted to share it here on the show. Keegan's recent starts: win at the BMW Championship, 21st at the Tour Championship, helped the United States win the President's Cup in the fall, had a solo 5th, the Hero World Challenge Tiger Woods event in the Bahamas and Albany, T15 to kick off the year at the Century Tournament, no longer the Tournament of Champions, and then a T6 at Waialae Country Club to kick things off. 5th, T15, T6, last 3 appearances for Keegan Bradley. A win in there as well in his past 5. Always love to see Keegan playing well. My boy, your boy, big year for Keegan Bradley. Hope he'll be able to keep that up because there's going to be a lot on his plate throughout the course of the year. One other guy I wanted to bring up on the show, Russell Henley, with maybe the most Russell Henley performance I think I've ever seen. As a betting favorite, 20-1, performs well, hangs around, just can't make enough putts on Sunday. I think that's the story of Russell Henley's career. Continues to play well, man, and I'm a Russell Henley guy. And when you put him on part of your card, I'm not knocking you for throwing him on the card or anything. I mentioned he was the guy at the top of the board, if I was going to go there, that I was going with. Made a lot of sense on these types of setups. Just the freaking putter, man. I'm so sick of watching Russell Henley miss putts. He's a great ball striker, but just can never seemingly get enough putts to drop. I watched him miss so many putts on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean that's the narrative, but you still got to ride the hot hand, and Russell's still one of the best out there in the field. Just you wish for his sake he just put it together a little bit more often, man, and actually seal the deal.
A couple other guys I wanted to give a shout out to as well, Ross. We saw Adam Schenk perform really well for the first time in a while. I know he's been battling through a lot, so good to see Adam Schenk near the top of the leaderboard. 2 Korn Ferry Tour guys that we got to see last week. Jackson Suber, absolute stripe show, wound up finishing T6 along with Mr. Adam Schenk. And then got to give a shout out to the Grizzly veteran as well, Paul Peterson, man. Had a nice first round, was tied for the lead. I had a couple different buddies texting me like, who the fuck is Paul Peterson? Truthfully, I didn't even really know before going into this week, and I was like, don't worry, fellas. I've seen this rodeo before. I don't think he's going to be hanging around for long. Paul Peterson hung around throughout the entirety of the weekend, man. Wound up finishing T12. Him and Jackson Suber definitely the two guys that I would say made their names more known at the Sony Open following last weekend, Ross.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing I was paying attention to is going through the entire board and just seeing these early season events, man, are where you can really see some people jump up and kind of circle back on your card when you see some of the alternate field events later in the year. These are where I tend to pick on a lot of these guys and go, all right, well, they got their shot here. Going to get a couple alternate field starts later in the year. And that's where you and I last year hit on guys like Jake Knapp playing in Mexico, because he showed up in these things or in these early weeks where when they went to Mexico, it was pretty much a no-brainer that Jake Knapp can hit this ball a fucking mile down there, and that's really all he has to do. As long as he can do that and then knock down a couple putts, Jake Knapp should be the far and away runaway here. And let alone he was still out there at like 40-1 the day before they teed off.
Yep. These are when you kind of get those first memories and those first ideas of these guys ingrained into your brain, and make sure to make those mental notes because they're going to be sticking around throughout the rest of the way. And a guy like Mathieu Pavon, who we saw win at Torrey Pines, so we'll get to here and a little bit later on in the schedule. Those are all things you got to make sure to make note of. One thing I certainly made note of and want to make sure to bring up on the show today, Ross, Frankie Sappin, T45 at the Sony Open doing his thing. Would not be surprised to see Frankie continue to snowball this momentum and pop up for a couple high-end finishes, knowing his talent here in the early part of the season, Ross, because he's that good, and it looks like his short game in particular is really the area where he thrives. Putting in putting and chipping. It seems like Frankie's got the goods there. You see any of Frankie on the course at all, or we're following along with him throughout the week?
I didn't follow along, but I know when we had our good buddy Monday Q on, Monday Q gave us the early heads up that the rookie to watch this year was going to be Frankie Sappin. That the game is legit, and it will translate well when he makes the switch.
Definitely wanted to give a shout out to Frankie Sappin. Also wanted to give a shout out to Nick Dunlap. Finished T10. Like, this is one of those situations where I think we need to take note of how good Nick Dunlap is. Because I want to give a shout out to Matt Gannon, who does a lot of good golf stuff, good previews, betting picks, does a lot of boots on the ground for these golf tournaments. He mentioned early on in the week, he was out there for the practice rounds, and he said that Nick Dunlap wasn't really looking all that good, was kind of like fighting through things. Nick Dunlap still finished T10, and it felt like he never really popped. Like, he was never really excelling. His game was never really fully on, and like nothing was fully clicked, but he still finds a way to beat T10 in that type of tournament. And I think that's just a good reminder of the type of skill that Nick Dunlap truly possesses, because even when he's not rolling and not firing at 100%, he's still a lot better than the competition, good enough to get himself in those top 10, top 12 type of spots where you're not even really noticing he's doing a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, we also had, we kind of got late in the year, you could see where he started to eliminate the jitters and actually come around. That came out last year, won the Amex as an amateur. Absolutely incredible. Eventually turns pro, and then you could see the adjustment phase. The adjustment phase was a real thing for him, where he had to adjust and adapt his game and realize how high of a level he needed to play at consistently. And then he breaks off another win in an opposite field event later in the summer, and then going into the fall and end of the fall, was a top player going into like the FedEx Cup playoffs and everything before his season actually ended. The thing that actually threw me off is I couldn't believe he didn't really participate in the fall swing at all. Yeah. I thought for such a young career with 2 wins already out there, once he got eliminated from FedEx Cup, I really did think that he might be one of the smart ones to circle around and just keep playing through the fall, maybe nab a couple victories in the fall, if not just stay on a roll. Not going to be, I'll do an early tease. I do kind of like Nick Dunlap this week. Just going back where it all began. This is one of those things where players kind of always find a way to play somewhere that they're familiar with, play good where they're familiar. And I think there's enough there to, after last week for Nick Dunlap, to roll into this week of, well, I am the defending champion here. So that's an all-time confidence boost coming in.
Yeah, I mean, vibes. I feel like vibes are forever going to be good for Nick Dunlap at the American Express, right? Anytime you're going to have yourself in a conversation with Phil Mickelson for the rest of history, you're probably doing pretty good, and he's probably going to be pretty happy getting reminded of that fact every time he makes a trip to La Quinta. And look, Nick Dunlap, the upside that he possesses, particularly with approach and putting, those are really the 2 things you need at this tournament. Not to bury the lead on the Amexes. We will get there, I promise, folks. But yeah, Nick Dunlap, very good. You heard it here first with us at Golf on Tap. Last thing I really wanted to get to, Ross, I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to get to from Sony as well, but my last thought that I had from this tournament was Waialae's awesome. I actually love Waialae, and it feels like it's one of the few shorter courses out there that truly can survive this technology boom that we're seeing in professional golf. Like, 16 under playoff, and I know it wasn't like a loaded field with all the best guys on the PGA Tour or anything, but I love those types of events, and we don't get them enough. And only 2 par 5s, that's like kind of a prerequisite for these golf courses nowadays, because guys just eat them alive. And I also thought 18 as a playoff hole and as a closing hole is a really, really good one, because if you play it right, you can make an eagle like Nick Taylor. It can be an easy hole. But there is definitely an opportunity to make a 6, get yourself in trouble, not have that gimme birdie. So I really love Waialae. I really love this golf course and how it held up. And it's given us a lot of good finishes over the years. I mean, I think in the last half decade, there's been 4 playoffs. So it's usually close and tight down the stretch, which is what we want on golf tournaments. A captivating finish. Really good leaderboard, man. I love the Sony Open. One of my favorite tournaments, even though it didn't end the way that I wanted to, Russ.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a place. I think there's a place for it. I think there is a nostalgia to it. I think there's a simplicity to it that, as long as it's not going to become like the Century, where 35 under. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, we're right where it sat in the leaders finish. I think it can stand alone on its own this early in the season if it produces a tournament like that.
Definitely agree. One interesting thing I did want to bring up as well, this just dawned on me. It was actually a thought that I had earlier on in the week. And this is a pure 100% hypothetical, but I guess not. It's a part hypothetical, part thought, but I don't know if there's anything the PGA Tour can do about this, but it just feels like such a damn shame that their Hawaii swing is going on when the NFL playoffs are going on. Like, and I know the Century is always where they start the year to give guys a reward in the beginning of the year. If you have golf start then and you're in Hawaii, like that's always going to match up with playoff football. But it just feels like it's such a damn shame, and also just like such a classic miss by the PGA Tour to like have these beautiful sight lines and these tournaments to begin the year that do have captivating views, while 90% of their audience is absolutely freezing their ass off and very jealous of the players being in those situations. It makes people like me and people like us just want to golf even more. It just feels like a miss, though, like from the PGA Tour. And I was just having this thought of, again, I doubt this probably ever happens, but like a global worldwide tour. Ideally, like if you have like stuff in like Australia or Hong Kong, China at this time of the year, that would be like perfect, right? Because then that would be your appetizer into football, because you'd have that in the morning instead of prime time competing right with football, right? Like it just feels like a shame that these tournaments, like especially the Sony, it was a great tournament, but I doubt that many people were tuning in because, playoff football.
Well, I'm laughing that you're bringing this up, because here is the only thing that drives me nuts is we started with the Century, right? Kick off the season with the Century. What does the Century fall on? Wild card weekend for the NFL.
Yes.
And then we go to Sony, non-signature event at Waialae. Beautiful course, beautiful layout, everything. We're at NFL divisional weekend. And then we end up moving on. This week is Amex. We're getting another additional divisional weekend. And then tell me, here's more significance just looking at the schedule. The second signature event of the season, AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, falls the 27th through the 2nd, which is the Super Bowl media week.
Yeah.
And then the following week is the Genesis, which the Genesis week kicks off as soon as the Super Bowl ends. So your first 3 signature events of the season are falling right into the NFL's lap, where the NFL is going, people aren't giving a fuck about you until mid-February when we're done.
Literally.
And at that point, 3 of the 8 signature events have already been completed before we even turn on the goddamn TV and get the majority of the audience.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a waste of the signature events because no one is truly tuning in to actually care about them except for us diehard golf sickos, right? It is not going to resonate what these signature events, what the PGA Tour wants them to mean to the golf fandom and the golf community. It's never going to resonate when half of them happen when nobody even like truly considers it golf season. It's football season right now. It's football season now. And
it's like 40% of the signature events are done for the year before you get the football crowd to jump over.
Right, and this could be a perfect opportunity, again, to move some of these signature events, to move them around, draw bigger attractions to different locations, get your star players to different markets to actually pump the game out there. Again, just another failure of the PGA Tour that I don't really understand. Like, you know what you're going up against, and you know that's going to cost you eyeballs and dollars, and yet you're going to persist that these are your biggest events of the year. You're going to lose that battle every time.
Then are we not surprised that this actually is a perfect setup? Are we not surprised that because it's not featured or going head to head with the NFL, TGL's numbers were up like 40% from last week this week?
Yeah, no surprise whatsoever. Good pointer there. Yes, we should definitely transition into TGL as we're now 2 matches through. We're 2 weeks through in TGL. We got to see the Bay take on New York Golf Club. Your New York GC unfortunately got waxed by my boys from the Bay in the handsome Ludwig Aubert. And then last night, we finally got to see Mr. Tiger Woods himself take part in the arena as Jupiter Golf Links also got waxed to the hands of Los Angeles Golf Club. Ross, kind of take me through your thoughts through the opening 2 weeks of TGL compared to your expectations. You like it? Where you at? Give me your rundown on TGL through the first 2 matches here so far.
I like it a lot. I think it's fun. I think it's out there. My biggest criticism so far is I think we take the golf a little bit too seriously. That they have designed the super futuristic course with all these fun layouts and challenges, and we're watching the guys still fucking lay them up.
Yeah.
Like the pick your plunder where you can go dog leg around the right or you go dog leg around the left, or you can go for the 80-yard wide green right down the middle, the little island landing strip thing. So far, everyone's gone left or right. No one's went for that down the middle, which is what we all want to fucking see. Let's be honest, because the whole design is if you carry it 320 right down the middle, it's going to give you a perfect setup at a potential eagle on that hole. And just we're not doing it. I would like people to take it a little less seriously when we get to like some of those fun things and like fucking go for it. Come on. Like that's why we designed some of this stuff. I wish the matches were a little more competitive to start, but I kind of saw that coming when you looked at the teams that were being scheduled against each other, that you could just kind of tell on paper, like this team's going to kick the shit out of this team. Although Kiz did give us the highlight of the night by absolutely sculling it out of the bunker and hitting the stick. Like that was my favorite thing I saw. Was I believe our good buddy Red Harrington reposted Kevin Kisner has been demoted to AAA New Haven Golf Club.
I sent that to a couple of my buddies. It was either him or Masters Burner. It was one of the two, but it was absolutely
good old MB.
Oh my God, dude. Absolutely hilarious. That's my favorite part about TGL so far. Low-key has been Twitter. Twitter has been absolutely on fire during this. But I actually will say TGL definitely has exceeded my expectations through the opening 2 matches. Because as I mentioned the last time we did our show, Ross, I knew there were going to be kinks. I knew there was going to be some awkwardness. They got to find their timing. They got to find exactly how to go about it. They got to, toe that line of being serious but being fun, figuring out which one exactly works best for them. There's a lot of kinks to iron out, and I understand that's going to take some time. But they definitely exceeded what I thought episode 1 was going to look like in terms of like the cheesier, cringy type of moments. There weren't as many of those as I thought there were going to be. There are definitely things that need to be improved in terms of, I think the entrances can definitely be cooler and a little bit shorter. Like they're making guys walk way too long with the camera panned on them. It's just kind of like an awkward amount of time.
My favorite part about that is, I don't know if you saw what Scratch was saying. I jumped in, Scratch did a little live stream, so shout out Scratch. But Marco was posting like, this is giving me like WWE vibes, and just it doesn't work for me for for this. And I was like, that is the quote. That is exactly what this entrance thing is. That there's one market that it works for and only one market that it works for.
Right.
In this golf, whatever, the long walk down the tunnel, like it's fucking Hulk Hogan coming into WrestleMania. No, it's not. It's fucking Xander Schauffele is walking out to hit golf on a goddamn simulator. Like this can be 5 seconds long. It doesn't need to be 20 seconds coming down the tunnel.
Right. I like the smoke. I like the music idea. I think they could still crank it up and get cooler music and make it louder and make it more entertaining. It was too long.
Baseball.
Exactly.
It's like baseball. Give a little 5-10 second walkout music. Yeah, get the blood pumping. It's the 20 to 30 seconds coming down the hall with, let's read off the guy's entire fucking Wikipedia page of won his first junior amateur at 15. He's like 47 years old, guys.
Yeah, right.
Fucking chill.
Like,
we don't, it's that whole wrestling WWE vibe that could be dropped. We could do 5-10 seconds, like a batter walk-up song when they come out, puff of smoke. All right, we got, fucking Tiger Woods is on the tee box. Go.
You know why that works for WWE, Ross? Because everybody in the WWE, I hope I'm not like breaking any news here for anybody out there who's like maybe like 8 or 9 years old and happens to be tuning into the show. They're actors, all right? They can act and get pumped up about this stuff. These are golfers. They are not actors. So you have to kind of cater to the guys who don't have the personality so you can save them so they don't look awkward when they're coming out in this 20-second intro and have nothing to do. And you can still showcase the players who do have personality and can take advantage of those moments and have some fun, like maybe like a Max Homa, even Justin Rose. Shout out to Justin Rose. Looked like he was enjoying himself, throwing some sign, like just enjoying the moment actually, and seeming like a guy who like knows what to do when the camera's on you in those types of situations, right? Like not everyone is Justin Rose though, so you have to cater to the guys who can't. You got to cut that bad boy down to about 5 seconds. Get them out there, crank the music up a little louder. And Roger Steele's gotta stop saying the same thing for every single player coming down. Like, make some noise for. That's gonna get old real soon. Also, the hammer strategy has not been good enough yet. I feel like that's something that just with more experience will become like second nature for these guys. And also when it is a closer match, like that will become more fun. But dude, just having it as like a towel is so stupid. Like you got to give it some type of oomph. And having it sponsored by FedEx, I literally want to die when I hear Marty Smith or Matt Berry say, "Dropping the hammer," presented by FedEx. Like, it kills me, and it is the most PGA Tour thing ever. Give the hammer, make it an actual, like, at least rubber hammer that you can, like, throw around. Not this, like, dainty little towel that looks like an NFL flag ref that has no swag or charisma around it. You're making golf look like a pansy sport.
The fact that they couldn't nail the marketing, like, and first of all, make it like a rubber mallet or anything, and drop it in very simple. Oh, Tiger's dropping the hammer, presented by DeWalt Tools.
Yeah, right. Like, look, the Patty Cantlay DeWalt fucking sponsorship here. What are we doing? It was a home run.
Yeah, like it was right there for the taking. Like, you had to go with FedEx. You couldn't get any Milwaukee tool company, any tool company. You couldn't get one of them to come forward and be like, "Yeah, we'll pay for it." That sounds cool.
I love the green and the chipping. I love the short game areas.
Yes.
You could tell the Simi's a little off though, right? I mean, they're blasting it like 15, 20 yards behind the hole, and these are professionals who are so dialed in with their numbers, guys. Like, they know where they are hitting that golf ball. That was one of my concerns that I unfortunately forgot to bring up when we did our preview last Monday. As someone who has, had experience with simulators, yeah, I'm sure the PGA Tour has the simulator of all simulators. You still have some concerns about exactly how it's going to translate in terms of accuracy, and it feels like there are some concerns with that in the ball striking area so far, Ross.
My favorite tweet, I forget who put it out. I saw someone say, "Wow, I watched Tiger have the absolute worst chipping night of his entire career." For someone that historically is the best chipper short game person in the world, and when you read through it, you were clearly seeing that they were enticing and inciting towards something is off with that simulator, because the GOAT is not that off.
Yeah. Like the yardages aren't 100% correct as of yet. And I don't know if that's something like they're going to be able to adjust or figure out, or if that's just going to be part of it and the players are going to have to adjust their numbers to the simulator screen. But it is definitely something that I've picked up on through these first two matches, Ross.
Yeah, it's definitely been, there's just a little bit off, and I mean it's marginal, right? But it's enough for a sicko like us to be like, he would never do that in real life.
Exactly. What else do I got on TGL? Kiz, man, it was just a mistake, man. It was, especially having him on the same team as Tiger. Like, Jupiter Lynx is fucked, dude. Like,
yeah,
they're fucked. They don't have the answers, Sway. They don't have the answers.
Yeah, no, that was the first thing I was like, so this team's dead, just right off the bat.
Kiz legitimately hasn't played good golf since the President's Cup in 2022. Like, legitimately, he hasn't played good golf in 2.5 years. And it was so funny when Max almost was like, Kiz, how do you play back here? When Kiz is hitting his drives like 240, almost like, Kiz, how do you play from back here? That was great. Homa's the man. I mean, Homa's going to save that team all year long. It's going to be appointment television because of Max Homa, in the laughs that they will generate at their own expense because of it.
I loved, like, when he went OB a couple times, like, on his drives, and the fact that as soon as he hit it, you'd watch it start to, like, move on the screen, and he just turned and walk around and be like, it felt good.
Yeah, right? He's like, I flushed it. That was so funny, too. He hit one into the water. He's like, I flushed it. I'm like, oh, this guy's so fucked. Like, there's no way this team's going to survive, man.
Yeah.
I saw another great, the great tweet of Kevin Kisner being optioned to AAA something links. Oh, it was so great. Also, one of my takeaways, Ludwig's a stud, dude. Ludwig's a stud. I feel like this is really, I don't know if it's going to, like, captivate him. I don't know why, and this could be like a wrong take of mine, but when I watch Ludwig, like I feel like he's gonna thrive in this.
I felt like Shane Lowry's gonna thrive in this. I've never seen Shane Lowry so fucking happy on TV.
Yeah, right. The guy was enjoying himself while playing a round of golf.
But it was like he was in a fucking pub in Ireland. It was just, it's a gigantic golf simulator bar. He was like a kid on Christmas Day, just giggling and laughing the entire time.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of my boys from the Bay, and they're now, I believe they're now the betting favorites after being like second to last to open things up. So, also one thing I got to bring up about TGL as well. I know we still got to get to Amex. The interviews, man. In terms of like even the player interviews, like they still got to figure out the timing of those exactly. But bringing people into, like, bringing in Serena last night, like, was not it. It just was not it.
No.
It was not it. And also, the intermissions, too. Not it. Not it. We got to keep this thing moving. Faster, the better. If you stop, people are going to tune away. The intermission, I don't think they can afford to have that. It's just, it's too much, a lack of screen time for people. People are not going to stick around and stay on that channel the rest of the way, especially if it's not a close match, right? Like, you're going to lose everyone at that point in time. I know halftime's like part of sports, but you don't need to give your guys a fucking break here. It's not a physical sport, or you're not running around. Like, they're not tired. You know what I mean?
They're walking back and forth 30 yards every couple holes. Like,
we don't need an intermission. We don't need a halftime. Again, like, some of these critiques I expected them to have, and I knew they were going to have, like, to figure through some of these things. And quite honestly, I know we kind of spent more time there just, like, talking about the things, like, we'd like to see changed than what we like thus far. But I genuinely am happy with TGL through the first two. Like, I don't know if it's going to last long term, but it's off to a better start, and it's cooler than what I thought it would be. And I do think it will have that ability to get people who aren't necessarily golf fans to at least have somewhat of an interest in some of the stars and get to know them a little bit more. And that's, I guess, the least we can ask for.
I think with TGL in full swing, this is like the perfect mix
you're right.
To kind of get that open channel to these professionals that you normally wouldn't get to see this side of. I think the product needs some fine tuning, but I think it's there. I think this is new. I think this is fun. It's clearly getting enough attention. I'm curious to see if it's going to continue to draw the attention that it has. Like, it did really good numbers on week 1. It was up again on week 2, but obviously we know that's the influx of Tiger. I would expect we're going to get another bump when Rory finally comes around.
Do you think Rory plays? I think he's got to play, right?
Oh, he absolutely has to. But the fact that Tiger went out and played, Rory's got to be out there playing.
Yeah, they need him. So it'll be Atlanta versus Boston, right? Is the next match is that next Monday or Tuesday?
Not
to put you on the spot, but I know it will be Boston versus Atlanta. Those are the two teams that haven't played yet.
So that would be no, we have Tuesday this week will be New York Golf Club versus Atlanta Drive.
Oh, really? New York Golf Club back in action already, huh?
We don't get till Monday, January 27th is Jupiter Golf Links versus Boston Common Golf. The debut is going to be Tiger versus Rory.
Yeah, I bet probably Rory and Scotty playing on the other side of the world, I would guess, is probably what's pushed Boston Common back a little bit further in terms of their debut, if I had to guess. Because we know Hideki's already over, right? And who else is on the Keegan? Yeah, Keegan's already over, so.
Because then Boston goes back-to-back weeks to make up for that.
Yeah.
They go January 27th, and then they run it back February 4th, Boston versus LA.
Cool. Well, through 2 weeks, like I said, I'm pretty happy with what we've gotten out of TGL thus far. Definitely am interested to keep an eye on the numbers. I know they did get up over 1 million. They got a bigger bump from Tiger, as expected. I knew they would get over 1 million. Didn't get quite over as much as I thought they were going to, so definitely interested to see what those numbers are going to look like the next couple of weeks, and we'll be sure to talk about all of that, plus more of a TGL recap right here on the next episode of Golf on Tap. Last but certainly not least on today's episode, Ross, I know we're already running a little bit long here, but a lot of good stuff to discuss. We got the American Express as the PGA Tour heads from Hawaii to kick off the California swing this week. They head to the continental United States for the first time in 2025 for the American Express as we roll into course rotation season, which Ross, Joey Ricotta, and I on the betting side of things have infamously dubbed this probably our least favorite stretch of the season, because as guys who try to go about things analytically, it's really tough when a tournament like the American Express, you have a 3-course rotation and 2 of the courses don't have shot tracker. The app is useless for 2 of the courses as well. The TV coverage, there's only cameras at the Pete Dye Stadium course. So it's a little bit hard to follow and keep along with. And it's also one of the 2 pro-ams on the PGA Tour. So the rounds, are like 5 to 6 hours long. Each of the 156 players in the field is paired with 1 amateur. So there's 156 amateurs out there as well. The cut will be made on Saturday after 3 rounds instead of the usual cut being made after 2 rounds. So yeah, everything's a little bit wonky this week. And while there are 3 different courses, all of them are somewhat similar. They're all courses shorter than 7,200 yards, lots of par 4s. In between 350 to 450 yards on the shorter side, par 5s in between 500 to 550 yards. And the reason for that is, Ross, simply because there's amateurs in the field and they want to make sure these guys have a good time out there. And these are the amateurs that are like the corporate sponsor side of things, like the main sponsors who represent these players and give money to these players are the ones out there who get to kind of go and celebrate their spending of money alongside these players. So it's kind of more so made for them out there, meaning the courses are super easy, all 3 of them, super gettable. We saw Nick Dunlap last year on his way to becoming the first amateur since Phil Mickelson in 1991. He had the 3rd lowest score through 54 holes in PGA tournament history, was minus 27 through 3 days, ended up winning this thing at minus 29. It's reached at least 23 under in 10 of the past 12 years. So you got to hit your wedges good. You got to be able to make birdies. You got to be able to get the putter hot enough. It's kind of as simple as that, but at the same time complex because you don't get a lot of data. So it's kind of just a gut feel type of week. And also, Ross, we've seen some of the craziest long shots on the PGA Tour win this tournament. I mean, Nick Dunlap was 400-1 last year as an amateur. Hudson Swafford won this thing a couple of years ago at 250-1. Like, there is truly like no one who can't win this tournament because it's such an easy golf course. It is some of the easiest golf courses that these guys will face all year long. So really interested to see who you're going with at the betting board, on the betting board, particularly because there are a lot of interesting names at the top. Justin Thomas, Sung Jae Im, Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay, Tom Kim, Tony Finau, and Wyndham Clark, I would call the big seven. And we were honestly expected to have even more. Xander Schauffele, world number 2, unfortunately had to withdraw from this event. And Scotty Scheffler was also supposed to be part of this field, but is still recovering from hand surgery, so is not here. But Ross, a lot of big names, pretty good field for the American Express. I feel that's probably because a lot of these guys, corporate sponsors, want them to play here, if I had to guess. But out of those big 7 at the top of the board, JT, Sungjae, Burns, Cantlay, Tom Kim, Finau, and Wyndham, who and how many do you got to kick things off on your card this week?
I have 2 of the 7.
All right, who you got?
I have 5 total this week. I went all the way through the field. We are going from the top to we got some reachers in there that I think, just like you said, where you get some big numbers come up and get this tournament. I played a little low. So we're just kicking off the top. I went off the top and just said, you know what? This feels like one of those fucking tournaments that Sam Burns puts it together and comes out and grabs.
Quite honestly, it could have been Sam Burns' tournament last year. If you remember, Ross, he was right there with Nick Dunlap down the stretch. I believe it was 16 where he found the water and he either made a double or a triple, and that was kind of it for his chances. But he was hanging around. We know Sam Burns, Bermuda putting surfaces. They got Poa Trivials here. He can light it up with the putter. Has a pretty decent history. I know a lot of people are going on Sam Burns. He's one of the most tipped players according to Golf Tips Checker this week. So you're certainly not alone with Sammy Burns at the top of the board.
Yeah, so I went Sam. I got Sam at 16 a little bit earlier this week before he got bet down a little bit. So
who else you got in this top 7?
After that, we're going to drop down to 30. I did tag Wyndham because, again, this falls into when he's on these types of courses, treat him really, really well when he is on.
I'm on Wyndham Clark as well. I did get on Tom Kim 28-1 before him. Tom Kim has missed the cut here in 2 of his 3 starts, but the one that he did, he finished T6. And while he finished T65 last week at the Sony Open, it was basically because of the putter. He still gained over 5 strokes on his approach shots. And quietly, I don't know how much weight you want to put into this, but Tom did finish runner-up at the Grant Thornton Invitational at the team event in December. Also finished runner-up at Tiger Woods Hero World Challenge. So he's been playing a lot of pretty good golf. The approach numbers remain really solid, and these shorter types of setups are always where Tom Kim does well on. All 3 of his wins have come on shorter courses, 2 at TPC Summerlin in Las Vegas, the other being at the Wyndham Championship as well, another wedge fest. And Tom also, I just mentioned TPC Summerlin in Las Vegas, has a really good track record on desert-style golf courses, which is kind of what you get this week in Palm Springs. So for many different reasons, I thought Tom Kim 28-1 was more than fair, and I did join you as well, Wyndham Clark. I got him at 33-1 with FanDuel, but quietly, I don't know if this is a true narrative, but sneaky good in California, right? Won his U.S. Open in California, won the Pebble Beach Pro-Am in California, even though there wasn't a final round. And as you mentioned, these types of courses can be really nice to him. We obviously saw him have a T2 at Pete Dye's TPC Sawgrass earlier last year, where he lipped out on the 72nd hole to miss out on that playoff with Scotty Scheffler. Also finished runner-up at Harbor Town for the RBC Heritage, another infamous Pete Dye type of course. We know Wyndham can make birdies. We know he can light it up. And last year on tour, I believe he was number 1 in par 4s shorter than 400 yards. So on these shorter types of par 4s, which you'll see a lot of them this week, he knows how to fill it up. He can get the putter hot, make them in bunches. I don't know if this correlates whatsoever, but did win a Pro-Am last year. There's only 2 of them on the PGA Tour. And listen, things are a little bit different when you have a Pro-Am. You got to be comfortable with playing a little bit slower in that style of golf, and clearly that didn't affect Wyndham through 54 holes at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So it was enough for me to jump on Wyndham Clark 33-1 in this type of field. He usually gets disrespectful type of numbers in the outright market, 33-1. I was more than happy to jump along with him as well. Next range, we got Kurt Kitayama kicking it off at 35-1. Ross will go all the way down to, we'll call it 60-1. Do you have anyone in between that 35 to 60-1 pocket here on the betting board?
I have 2.
All right, what you got for me?
I have 2 more.
You got Max Grazerman, don't you? You lied to me earlier. You have Max Grazerman, don't you? You sick son of a bitch.
So first of all, the one of the favorites this week is Sam Burns. Where did Sam Burns finish in this tournament last year?
Was it third?
Third.
Yeah,
it was third. Who won this event?
Nick Dunlap.
Well, Nick Dunlap at 50-1 sounds pretty fucking valuable and a pretty fair play. So Nick Dunlap at 50-1, the fact that almost disrespectful that the defending champion for this tournament, this format, is out there that high. So that one was tapped just because. I'm sorry, but you play off of history. He won this thing last time, and that is a very fair number for Nick Dunlap as it returning as a defending champion for the event.
Certainly a fair number. Especially when you look at the guys that are around him. Harry Hall, 45-1. Who's a better player, Nick Dunlap or Harry Hall? It's Nick Dunlap. Ben Griffin, 60-1. JJ Spaun, 60-1, right? Like, these are guys who should not be in the same conversation in terms of chance of winning this golf tournament. Now, if we're talking about chance of T10ing, yeah, that's a different conversation. Winning upside is different, though, and we know Nick Dunlap absolutely possesses that. So, yeah, 55-1, I think, is a fair number. Who else you got before 60-1?
So after that, we got another 55 that just, hey, you go off of what have you done for me lately? This player has played extremely well to start off. Well, not only played extremely well in the fall and started off the season playing well again. And I think 55-1 is a very fair number going into this week. I do have Nico Echeverria.
Yeah, man. I thought about riding Nico back again as well. Scumbag Nico, as we like to call him here on the show. Dude, he's for real. I hate to say it. I think Nico's for real, especially now that he's kind of got the putter cooperating. I do worry, as someone that tracked him a lot last week, who had him at 100-1, he filled it up a lot last week. Like, he made a shit ton of putts last week. And I do wonder if that runs out. But I also think Nico is now past that kind of echelon of, this guy's no, he's a for real golfer. And Nico has all parts of his game rolling, the around the green, the irons. It was kind of tough for me, honestly, to not go back to Nico Echeverria at 60-1. Honestly, the only reason I didn't, Ross, is because, as I pointed out in my article last week, he's more of a coastal setup type of guy, at least up to this point of his career. But again, I just mentioned he's kind of transitioning into a different style of player right now. So ultimately, what I said to myself is, I think Nico Echeverria is probably going to finish like T10 or T11 this week, which again is a good week, but I'm betting outright winners. I had to go against him this week, but would not be surprised to see him mixing once again because, like I mentioned, he's got all parts of his game going right now, and 60-1, more than fair number for Nico Echeverria.
Yep, and then you can give your card because I got one guy left on mine, and he's way the hell down there.
He's way down there? All right, for sure. This middle tier really doesn't have all that much for me. I was thinking about Nico. I was thinking about going back to Eric Cole. I was thinking about jumping aboard the JT Poston train potentially, as he's got two top 11 finishes here the last handful of years. Ultimately, where I ended up going, though, was Sepp Straka, who's kind of got a mixed bag here. 2 missed cuts, T49, and a solo fourth. Or actually, it's 1 missed cut, excuse me. But what really stood out to me with Sepp is he's putted very well on these greens in the past, and he's striking the shit out of the ball at this moment. I had him last week at the Sony Open. Has gained over 4.5 strokes ball striking in 3 consecutive starts. The putter just really let him down on Saturday and kind of wasn't able to make up enough strokes from that point on. But if he's able to mix with how he's striking the ball right now with what he's done on these greens these last few years, Sepp definitely has the upside to take this tournament down. We've seen him win on shorter courses, both of his wins, the John Deere Classic, the COG at the time, the Honda Classic, give me back my Honda. Dude, where's my Honda? Sepp Straka wins on these shorter types of golf courses. So I'm willing to take a chance on Sepp at 60-1. I think, again, for some of the guys that he's in the range with, and I'm a fan of Ben Griffin. I'm a fan of JJ Spaun. Sepp Straka is like a real dude, though, who I'd like trust to win a golf tournament on Sunday. So that's ultimately why I went with him. I also went with Mr. Hoagie Buns, Tom Hoagie, 70-1. Another guy who has won a Pro-Am in the past at AT&T Pebble Beach, has been striking the ball. I mean, he always strikes the ball. He's known for his wedges, these shorter courses. He stripes it here beautifully every single year. He's gained strokes putting in back-to-back weeks and was actually one of the better putters in the field at the Century to begin the season. So again, kind of like Sepp Straka, if he could just kind of mix those two things, I certainly believe that Tom Hoagie can be in the mix here once again. So that's where I went in that range. I did think about running back Eric Cole, but ultimately I don't think he wins. I know Adam Hadwin is super popular. Next click, I went to Beau Hossler, 100-1, man. Interesting, Ross. Just sicko golf things that I found. There's been some correlation to the Valspar Championship. The leaderboards, at least. The Valspar and the Amex, the last handful of years. Or not the Valspar, excuse me, the Sanderson Farms Championship. Kevin Yu beat Beau Hossler in a playoff at the Sanderson Farms Championship in the fall. Kevin Yu finished third here at the American Express last year. Nick Dunlap, T11 at the Sanderson in the fall, of course, won this last year. Christian Bezaden, who has had some high-end finishes at the Sanderson. There are a lot of weird correlations that I found between those two tournaments. So I'm sticking with Beau Hossler, who actually had a pretty good fall swing, gained over 5 strokes in 4 of his last 5 outings, 5 top 25s in his last 7 starts. Has 2 T7s in his career at the Shriners Children's Open, Desert Golf, wedges, putting. I know Beau Hossler's a guy I don't know if I necessarily trust to close out a golf tournament on the back nine, but I thought 100-1 was a good number considering I found that weird Sanderson Farms comp. I also got in on Michael Thorbjornsen, 110-1, man. Guy who went to college at Stanford, has a 4th in his career at a Pete Dye course in the Travelers Championship in 2022. Another guy like Nick Dunlap that just has iron and putting upside in 110-1. Like, we've seen young, talented players pop up here over the years. Davis Thompson, Nick Dunlap. I would not be surprised if this is where Michael Thorbjornsen has his type of breakout spot. So I got to Thorb at 110-1. I also got to Chan Kim at 150-1 as well. Flushing the ball. Finished T14 here last year and has actually started to putt better too. I thought about Justin Lauer, didn't get there. I rounded things out with Matty Schmid at 170-1. Has a couple of high-end finishes here. Usually lights it up on these easier style courses. 170-1 was too big of a number for me. So that's where I went with my card. There were a lot of guys that I really wanted to make cases for because, again, this is just one of those walkie events that, like, you see one good thing that someone's doing, and it could give you enough of a reason to believe they can win this bad boy. So that's how I rounded out my card for the American Express. We've had 2 runner-ups in 2 weeks, man. It feels like something's got to give here, and I posted, out of the last 8 PGA Tour events, Ross, I've had 6 of those events. I've had a guy finish inside the top 4, and I haven't cashed a ticket during that stretch. So the process feels right. Something's got to give at some point in time. Hopefully it's this week. But let me know who you have finished your card out with this week, because it sounds like it's going to be a bomb.
I did throw a bomb out there, and I'm just going off of, again, the vibes. What have you done for me lately? And you know what? All-time vibes, guy. We got a rookie that had a great season on the Korn Ferry Tour last year. Made the jump into the FedEx Fall, locked down a win immediately at Black Desert. I bombed Matt McCarty at 180.
Yeah, I actually thought about Matt McCarty as well. I thought about Frankie Sappin too. I thought about both of them, quite honestly. If McCarty's putting numbers had been better as of late, I would have been a little bit more intrigued. I wonder if he still has a little bit of that first win fatigue. Like, I wonder if he's kind of in awe. I don't want to like put this on a young kid. I'm sure he's like still working hard out there, but part of me like wonders if he's on like autopilot mode, like enjoying life. Like, still part of him. It's still so new into the season, and he already got that first PGA Tour win. That's at least where my mind went. And again, when there's 156 guys in the field, Ross, sometimes you got to make your own narratives up about guys and reasons to not bet on him. That was the reason I made up about Matt McCarty. We know the kid's uber talented. And one thing I do like as well, with this setup being so easy, to me, Ross, that's why I'm not surprised that a guy like Davis Thompson, who was a college standout, and a guy like Nick Dunlap, who was a college standout, have done really well. Because these are the types of setups that Korn Ferry Tour players and college players play. It's American style golf nowadays. Go low or go home. So these guys have experience on these types of setups. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another type of guy like a Nick Dunlap or like a Davis Thompson from a couple of years ago contend at the American Express, because it's just that type of event, brother.
Yep, that's my card. I'm looking forward to this week, and it's about all I got.
It's about all I got as well. I mean, we're a minute 15 in. Pretty darn good show, brother. Wanted to say thank you, as always, to everyone who tuned into this edition of Golf on Tap. Reminder, go and follow Golf on Tap, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. That way, you can catch up on all of our latest episodes. If you're not able to tune in with us live, make sure to go and show some support to the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube page. Subscribe over there. That way, when the episodes go live, you can interact with us in the comments section. And make sure to go and check out ontapsportsnet.com for all of your latest Chicago sports and golf needs. We also got beer reviews, movie reviews, lots of good stuff over on Tap Sportsnet. Make sure to go and support us over there. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you again to everyone tuned in. Best of luck this week at the American Express. Hopefully, Ross, hopefully Wyndham Clark wins this bad boy and we can celebrate a duo victory next Monday. Sound good, bro?
Yeah, it sounds like a plan to me.
Sounds like a plan, brother. Everyone, thank you again for tuning into this episode of Golf on Tap. Until next time, crack 'em, lock 'em, have a great rest.